Hello, and welcome to Stitching Across the Smokies. I'm Tanya, and this is my little stitching neck of the woods. Today is Monday, September 29th, and this is going to be my weekly recap of what I've stitched on and then my plans for this coming week. I will also have just the smallest amount of haul at the end of this video. And that includes a spoiler alert for the monthly Be Stitch Me fabric. So I will give you a heads up before I show that in case there's anyone that hasn't seen it yet and doesn't want to see it till they get theirs. All right, so let's start with what I worked on this past week. To start off, I had my one strand a day, which is Maggie the Messmaker. This is a Dimensions Gold Kit with artwork by Charles Wazaki. And I'm using everything that comes in the kit. You should be seeing a picture of what it looked like last week. And here's what it looks like now. This is being stitched on 18 count Aida in the color beige. And as you probably will know, if you've ever stitched on a Dimensions kit, it calls for various numbers of threads, full cross, half cross, and I'm doing all that. But this week I mostly finished at the top of these curtains here and come on over and got this part of the wallpaper in. And with just doing one strand a day, I was able to get 231 stitches in. And this piece is now sitting at 24% completed. All right, so my weekly focus for this past week was Night Before Christmas. And this is a Cooler Design Studio piece designed by Sandy Orton. You should be seeing a picture of what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now. And I was able to get rid of a lot of the strands that were hanging down. I tried to get this area here complete, didn't quite get it completed. But this is being stitched on 16 count Aida with all the called for DMC and the number of threads, whether it be full cross or half cross. And this week I got in 659 stitches on this, and it is sitting at approximately 20% complete. This feels like it's going to be a short video today. All right. Moving on to my Stitchopoly stitching. I did not get all my stitching done. Again, this week I didn't get Playing with Jacks done. I did get my stitches that I needed on Her Majesty. And you should be seeing a picture of what she'll look like when she's finished. This is a Haid. And then you should be seeing a picture of where it was last time you saw it. This fabric is 18 count, excuse me. It's either 18 or 20 count, I'm not sure what it is, but I've stitched all the way across. But now I am focusing on diagonal stitching. So this past week, I worked some more on getting this diagonal completed. And I needed 340 more stitches for the this Stitchopoly go, and I got that done. And she is now sitting at 4% complete. Okay, moving on to gridiron grind stitching. All right, so this week, University of Tennessee Volunteers played Mississippi State. The Volunteers won 41-34. And so while I was watching the game, I needed 120 stitches from last week's game and this is my, sorry, I'm stitching on the postman for the opposing team until it's finished, or until the season's over, whichever happens first. This is a Cottage Garden Samplings piece. And I am using all the called for threads, with the exception of the Aztecs red that it calls for. I am using Red Fox, and then the 3799, I'm using Rustic Black. Both of those are color and cotton threads. My intention is, and you'll see when I show you the piece here in just a second, I'm changing up some of the color. I'm not all the red, not all of that's going to be red. I'm going to do some blue in there to represent more of the American postal colors. However, I will be leaving this one red simply because it reminds me of the postal boxes that I saw when I was in London. And then, of course, the red bird will be red. But you should be seeing a picture of where it was last week when you saw it. And last week I had mentioned that I had run out of the Rustic Black, and I haven't done an order for color and cotton yet, and I need to do that. So I moved on to some of the other colors, and I'm not sure if you can tell that this right here is the start of the scarf that he's wearing, and I'm doing blue in it. And then I've got a little bit of his head there, but it's kind of hard to see in this light since it's white until I get some of the other features in it. But he got 120 stitches this past Saturday. This is 16 count Fiddler's Ada 2/1. Right, and then my other gridiron piece is the piece that it's my largest piece, and it's a Haid that I'm using to stitch on for the University of Tennessee Volunteers. And I currently have it in Q-snap because I was working on it Saturday, obviously. So I'm not going to take it out of Q-snap. But here's a picture of what it will look like when it's finished. This is being stitched on 18 count Aida in the color cream. It is a Haid, in case I didn't say that, with artwork by Oleg Grolovov. And again, I'm probably mispronouncing, and I apologize. But here's where it is now. Here's where I got to Saturday. So now I am working on this diagonal here. And most of my time was spent on the Postman. So I only got in 128 stitches on this one. This is being stitched 2 over 1 full cross. And it is currently sitting at 3% complete. I feel like I'm flying through this. All right. So then, in addition to my regular stitching for my weekly focus yesterday, I've also started doing 2 strands and on Sundays on a new start that I had the previous week. And that is Stephen King House by the Witchy Stitcher. I am going to see how far I can get as far as the frame of the house, the black, how far I can get on that, doing just 2 strands a day on Sundays. And we'll see how far I get with that by April, when I go to the Children of the Thread retreat in Estes Park. You should be seeing a picture of what little I had done when I started it last week. And the neighbor's dog, they just let the dog out and he's barking, so I apologize if you can hear him. This is being stitched on 32 count Lagana in the color Gray Magic by Be Stitch Me Fabric. This was one of my Fabric of the Month pieces that I got. And as you can see, I didn't get too terribly far. I've just stitched oh no. Oh no. I just discovered a huge error I made, and I am going to have to frog all this out. Alright, for some reason, when I counted over to the middle, I was thinking, I mean, I've got the middle there, but I didn't start in the middle of the top of the house. I started here. So, this will all have to be frogged, so when you see it next week, it won't have this much progress on it. Oh, that's very frustrating. I hate it when that happens. Luckily, this is, I mean, I've had to frog before, but not because I started out in the wrong place. But I centered it in the middle of my fabric when I started, and then counted down. But because it's a paper pattern and I don't have it in Pattern Keeper, I was looking at the first page, so I have totally messed that up. Oh, that's frustrating. Oh well. But before I take it out, this is 2 over 2, and I got a whopping 53 stitches in it. I guess it's a good thing I'm only doing 2 strands on Sundays. That way I didn't get a whole lot of progress on it before I had to take it out. Oh well. All right, let me flip notes here. All right, so let's move on. That's all my stitching from last week. So let's move on to my plans for this week. So for my one strand a day, since today is the 29th and tomorrow is the 30th, which is the last 2 days of this month, I will be doing a strand on this today and a strand tomorrow, and then it will go away for 2 months. But this is Maggie the Messmaker Dimensions Code Kit. This is where I'll be starting from. And since I've made it all the way across, I'm going to go back over and start picking symbols that are at the very top and start working them down. So more than likely I'll start working, I believe these are branches. Where's the picture at? Yeah, those are branches. So I will probably start on those branches and get a little bit of that in today and tomorrow before this goes away. But that's my starting point on this one. And then on Wednesday, which will be the 1st of October, I will have a new one strand a day, and it will be Candy Cane Santa, which is also a Dimensions Code Kit. I love this piece. And this is designed by Donna Race. I'm using everything that came in the kit for this. Sorry about that. Let me show you where I'll be starting from. This is where I'll be starting from. Oh, he looks so good. And I'll be picking up over here, and what I'm doing is working my way back and forth, and whatever stitch is closest to the top is the one I pick, and then I just work in where I can with that thread. And so starting Wednesday, this piece will get one strand a day for the next 2 months. I want to get this one completed quicker than the Maggie the Messmaker. That's why this one gets 2 months. So I'll alternate between 2 months and 1 month with these two pieces for one strand a day. This one is a Dimensions Code Kit, so there are half stitches, full stitches, and then there's times when you use multiple strands, and then sometimes when you use just one. So that is obviously what I'm doing here. And he is currently sitting at 43% completed. All right. So my weekly focus, since this is the beginning of a new month, it will be a Haid. And so the Haid that is next in the rotation for a week of focus is Seahorses. And I will put a picture up here of what it will look like when it's completed. trying to wrinkle all the fabric here. This piece is being stitched on 18 count Aida in the color cream. And this will be my starting point right down here in this, what looks like a clamshell. The beginning is of a clamshell. This is being stitched 2/1. The artwork for this piece is by Renee Bertomfa. And this piece is currently sitting at 10% complete. And this piece is really starting to get exciting because, as you can see up here, to begin with, it was just all these like brownie oranges, but now I'm getting into all the colors here. And I love the colors in this piece. Then also, since we're starting a new month, I want to go ahead and show you the piece that has a birthday in October. I am not sure if I'll work on it this week or not. I may not, but I want to go ahead and show it just in case I do. And that piece is Halloween Sampler by Teresa Kogut. There's a lot of people stitching on this. Of course, most of them have a lot more progress than I do, but I love this piece. And there's some great pieces in here that also, other pieces that I want to stitch. I'm using, other than the called for DMC for this piece, the only other called for thread that I'm using is the Weeks Dye Works Onyx, and I'm going to have to order some more of that. But everything else are oranges and greens and a red, I believe, and yellow. There's even a brown that I have pulled from my color and cotton stash up here so I can use some of it. So what I did is I just looked at the colors that it called for and got something fairly close, and that's what I'm using. This piece is being stitched on a 32 count Lagana, again, Be Stitch Me Fabrics. And it is in the colorway Boneyard. I love this fabric. This would have been a great fabric to use for the Stephen King house too, but I love this piece. But this is how far I've gotten. And this is 2 threads over 1. But that's where I am on this piece. All right. So let's move on to my Stitchopoly stitching for the week. So I just have left the one piece. Just a second. I laid these in the wrong place. And that piece is Playing with Jacks, and it is a Cricut collection piece. And I didn't write down how many stitches I need in this. I want to say it's 300. But this piece is designed by Vicki Hastings. I am using all the Cob 4 DMC thread. And I am stitching this on a 14 count Ada in the color taupe. And here's where I am with this one. And this one is being stitched 2 threads over 1. So hopefully I will be able to get this done, either all done on Tuesday, tomorrow, or finish it up on Thursday. And then instead of doing another round of Stitchopoly, I am just going to pull out two dancing peacocks and try to get some stitches in on this, because I'm getting further and further behind on this one. And on this one, to catch up with this past Saturday, I need 2012 stitches on it. So hopefully I'll be able to get a few extra stitches in on this on Thursday. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is a free week, a bye week for the Tennessee Vols. So that will give me some time this coming Saturday to catch up on that as well. And then my other gridiron piece is the Postman, and I just need 170 stitches on this one. Again, I've got to order some of the rustic black, and I've started, like I mentioned earlier, I've started stitching on the scarf that he has on. I started stitching on the scarf, and I'm not sure if you could tell, but there's the other part of this scarf on the other side of his neck is like a darker shade. And then there's shading on some of these that I'm going to use the blue on as well. And I'm trying to find a shade of blue that is just maybe a couple of shades darker than the one I'm using. I believe this is 820, if I'm not mistaken, that I'm using. So I'm going to have to look and see if I can find something, because this part right here should have been in a darker shade. And I'm using, or I tried, I think 796 right there. But I can't really see a difference in the threads. Or not enough that I like. So I'm probably going to frog this part out and try to find something a little bit different. Excuse me, a little bit darker shade than the 820. For that. But again, I just need 170 stitches on this, and then I can focus on 2 dancing peacocks, excuse me, the rest of my time on Saturday, the rest of my stitching time. Sometimes I don't get to do a whole lot of stitching on Saturdays, so alrighty. What else have we got to talk about? My small amount of haul. So, one of my last couple of videos, I don't remember which one it was, I did a small haul of my local LNS that I went to for the first time about 3 weeks or so ago. And I showed you the patterns that I had bought, but I completely forgot, because I had them laying to the side, about some threads that I had bought. And my purpose in getting these threads is I am wanting to kit up another Chatelaine. I'm wanting to kit up Gardens of London. And due to the fact that it's so hard to get a hold of some of the Glorianas and things, I am going to try to do a conversion to some overdyes. So what I did was, I had been doing some research before I went up of what those Glorianas look like and the colorways, and I had kind of a vague idea of what they were, and I'm not saying I'm going to use these because I don't know that I will, but I bought these just to see what I thought, see if I could substitute these for some of them. But I got a couple of cottage garden threads, which the name of my local LNS, by the way, is Thread the Needle Stitchery, which I forgot to mention last week, or whenever it was I showed the haul. It's in Greenville, Tennessee. It's not been, they've not had a storefront too terribly long, but they were carrying, when I went up, they were carrying cottage garden threads, but I believe they're going to stop carrying them now. So if you go there and they don't have any, I'm sorry, but when I went, they did have some. But anyway, I picked up these two colors, and I thought that I may be able to use them in the Gardens of London. If not, excuse me, my nose itches. There's also, I think, 2 or 3 more Chatelaines that I eventually want to do, and so it's possible that I could use these and those. If not, I'm sure there'll be a pattern come along at some point that I want to use these. But anyway, I'll quit rattling about that. This color is number 800, and it's in the colorway Sage. I thought that was really pretty. And then the other one I got is number 2102, Gerbera. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I want to say Gerber, but that's the mom in me. Do you all remember back in the day, Gerber babies? But anyway, I really like that color. So I thought maybe I might be able to use those. And then they also had a full thing of DMC threads, including color variations, colorists, and I can't remember what the other one was. But anyway, I picked up 3 of the colorist colors, thinking I may be able to use those. And this one is number 4501. This one's really pretty too, the variation in it. Because there was one of these when I was doing my research that I had already, just by looking online and looking at the different options, and I was looking at colorists online, and I had already decided that one of them would work for one of the Glorianas. And that one, I found it up there, and it's 4500 is the color. That one's really pretty with some pinks and greens. And then the last one was 4509 is the color. That's pretty as well. But like I said, I picked these up, other than the 4500, which I know that I'm going to want to use in it. I picked these up to, to kind of decide if I'm going to be able to use any of these as substitution for some of the Glorianas and maybe some of the other silks. I haven't bought the pattern yet, but I probably will as a Christmas gift to myself this year and go ahead and start kitting that up. Then the other thing, and this is a spoiler alert for anyone who is part of the Bestitch Me Fabric of the Month Club, you may want to look away because I got mine in the mail and I just went out and got it a few moments ago, and I'm going to show it. So if you don't want to see it, either go ahead and turn me off or just, look away. But this one it's a very pretty color. It's called Antique Market, and I get the 32 count Lugana. It's the color I get, or excuse me, the size I get, type of fabric. That's really pretty. That'd be really pretty for a sampler. And I've got a couple of samplers that I haven't started that I'm really starting to feel more and more like I want to get into samplers. So I may be starting more of those in the future. But this would be a good piece to do that on. Very pretty. And that's pretty true to color right there. And let's see, is there anything else I have to tell you? I don't think so. Oh, yes, actually there is. So tomorrow is the last day of the month, so I'm thinking I'm going to film a September wrap-up video and go over everything that I've stitched in the month and the stats and things with that, and hopefully get that posted sometime this week. And with that, I guess that is all I have. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Take time for yourself, get some stitching in, and until then, I'll see you later. Bye.